All right, we'll get
Bob.
started. If we're all ready, I'll call the audit committee meeting to order. And if you guys have seen the agenda, it's the first thing is to review the minutes from our January meeting, which was January 27th. And also we're going to look at the claims auditors reports or check those out. And again, there were for the month of January, February, March, and April. And if you guys had an opportunity to look at them, they were, there wasn't much there to really have to worry about or explain that I could see. So did you guys have any issues with that, either from the minutes or from the claims auditors report? Anything that we want to talk about? Okay, that being said, we'll move right on into the main part of our meeting today, which is the review of our audit process. And we have Tom Zuber here again to give us an overview of the process. So Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. So I will just share my screen if that's okay. Let's see if that works okay. And I'll try and keep it brief. I know you've got a busy schedule today, and I've worked with, I know you're all very familiar with Tom Lawfer. I've worked with him for 26 years. So, and this is pretty much all I deal with is public school districts. Do you see the presentation, Avon Central School District? Okay. Yes, so I'll just kind of walk through a couple of the bullet points. Certainly, if you have questions, let me know. There's a lot of information here. The first few bullet points are fairly consistent from one year to the next, just because, for any audit, there's certain things that we're doing. The scope of services is the same. Management's roles and responsibilities, they're consistent from one year to the next in terms of, your internal controls, your checks and balances. But really what the whole goal here is to talk to the audit committee a little bit about the audit approach and, what really is different from one year to the next. And, as the audits are a risk-based approach. So really what that means is we do more risk or more work in higher risk areas. And it's kind of interesting, we have a great deal of knowledge in school districts. We've been on the Public Schools Committee for years. So, part of our understanding of what's going on really is based on our experience in the industry, but we also have to look at, what's changed in the district, okay? And obviously some of those areas are, has there been new staff or any turnover in key personnel? Because as you have internal controls, checks and balances, but do those new folks understand what they are? How are they communicated? And are they operating like you designed them? So those are reasons why we see more risk, or we would move the audit into areas where we see more risk. And that's one of the primary factors. But in addition to that, obviously this year's been a different year, especially the last few months. So our audit really has to also take into account what's changed as a result of the pandemic, and I think, we've done almost every single one of our audits remotely this year. We've made a significant investment in technology, and, that really has gone fairly well, so far this year. And so I think we're moving forward. As part of the response to COVID, we really have to look at the key control areas and understand what have you changed as a result of, your employees working from home, or how you've changed your payables process, how are invoices coming into the district, how your audit committee or your claims auditor reviewing your claims. So we have to understand all of the changes and to make sure that you still have checks and balances in place. And so we're looking at that as part of the audit process and just really kind of reacting to it. And part of that's looking at the compliance as well. And, again, it's things like your investment policy, your procurement policy, but there are some other areas this year that are really more significant because of the changes as a result of COVID. So, things like your school lunch claiming procedures, what's changed there? Having to to deal with what's changed as a result of COVID. You know, obviously you're serving meals differently. All of those meals are being claimed as free meals now. So you're going to get more federal aid in the school lunch area than you probably received in the past. So some changes there that we need to make sure we understand. Obviously, the CARES Act, there are some dollars there, mainly 2021 fiscal year, potentially unemployment insurance relief relating to the feds reimbursing you half of what you're paying to New York State. There's also some challenges in that program that we're talking to districts about as it relates to fraud. There's been a significant increase in fraud over unemployment insurance claims where you know, those pesky people out there, those criminals, we'll call them, they're really fraudulently claiming insurance using district employees. We've had several clients that have been identified or had to deal with it. So, you know, there's all kinds of challenges as a result of where we're at with that. So, but again, there is at least a new federal program that you're going to be able to get reimbursed some of the unemployment insurance that you pay. Okay, and that's different than that $600. That's completely funded by the federal government. So this is really 1/2 of what you pay directly to New York State. You should be able to get reimbursed for. So there's new areas of compliance. The fraud area, again, we always have to talk about fraud. We call it the F word. You know, it's something we have to deal with as part of the audit process. And again, it's looking at the characteristics. It's going out, talking to your staff, both in the business office, outside the business office, understanding if they have any concerns. You know, if the board has any concerns or audit committee has any concerns, certainly those are things that we would want to talk about to make sure that as we're going through the audit, we're making sure we're looking in those areas. So that's just part of what that process is. It's interesting when you talk about the characteristics. You know, the district really can only control one of those characteristics. You know, and it really ends up being that opportunity. You know, how do you minimize the opportunity? It's more checks and balances, right? But then you as a board, as an audit committee, have to make that determination, that cost benefit determination. So, you know, you can have 3 people in the business office to have the best checks and balances in the world, but there's a cost benefit to that, right? So that's the decisions you folks have to make. So, but we do have those conversations, and if anything comes up, we have to deal with it. Okay, so that's just part of every audit that we go through. But again, here's the really important area that we continue to talk to districts about: your reserves, your fund balance, understanding the importance of reserves and fund balance right now. And you know, the district really, you know, we have, I would say probably 85 to 90% of our clients have really had a sound financial plan, had a good understanding of reserves and fund balance, has had conversations with their boards about reserves and fund balance, haven't listened to the controller and their response to reserves and fund balance because it's a local decision, and understanding that reserves and fund balance, the need for those aren't based on past historical trends. They're based on potential future needs, right? And right now we're there. That's why we developed these reserves over the past few years. So you're really in a very good position to help deal with the challenges you're going to face. I mean, I won't say that there won't be challenges, but you're in a much better position than some districts that followed the state controller's guidance and depleted their reserves based on their recommendations. So, you know, I think that's, you know, positions the district to really face the next 3 to 5 years. And again, this is a long-term challenge. As you know, there are some things that you won't even see the impact of for another 3 to 5 years. Both the retirement system rates, they're based on market returns. There's a little bit of a delay when they go into the calculations. So, you know, you may not see the impact of the current market trends on the retirement systems for 2 to 3 years. So having those reserves are going to be very important over the next couple years. So again, long-term discussion. Again, you do a great job with that. talking about the reserves, talking about the fund balance. There's been some talk about a waiver of the 4%. We haven't seen any movement on that. So if we hear anything between now and the end of the year, we'll let you know. But at this point, I don't think it's anything the governor is going to consider. So I think you just stay the course and take a look at the reserves. What reserves are flexible for the district? What reserves can you really utilize over the next few years to help offset any of the state aid challenges that you'll face over the next few years? Okay. Do you have any questions on those before we just talk about the last two or three slides? Okay. Okay. So again, the next couple slides, just to kind of touch base. I talked briefly on the CARES Act money. Again, new federal dollars. As you know, the governor came out and he said, I'm going to keep your rate flat. But what he really did is he took and reduced your state aid and he gave you federal aid, the pandemic adjustment. That was taking state aid and giving you federal aid. Okay. So he really did reduce the state aid. We think it's going to be reported similar to the ERA funds back, if you remember, back in 9, 10 and 11. There'll be a budget you'll have to submit. Most likely there'll be expenditures you'll have to identify and then submit a final cost report, but still most likely run through the general fund, okay? Although we still are awaiting guidance from the state. Here it is, it's 6 days away, and we're waiting guidance from the state. So school lunch program, again, some districts are seeing some challenges in those programs. So again, if you do have surplus this year, taking a look at that, and does it make sense to try and deal with some of those challenges currently to help better position that fund at the end of the year. Student activity funds, again, this is an area where, as you know, schools close down fairly quickly. And so we've been communicating with clients and just talking about making sure that they're touching base with the advisors, what happened with any inventory, unused inventory, just to make sure you have a good understanding of that, looking at the financial statements to see if there anything significant has changed. So a lot of that information. The last two slides we've talked about over the last 2 or 3 years continue to be important areas. I won't spend a lot of time on that, but we continue to highlight those areas from one year to the next because they're very important. SED continues to do audits. The cyber risk continues to be challenges. So just making sure you're educating your staff as well as, monitoring and doing your penetration testing. And again, the last items just relate to new standards that the district was going to have to implement, but fortunately, GASB, a governmental accounting standards board that provides the guidance for schools and other municipalities, they basically said we're going to delay any implementation for the current year because they realize that districts really haven't been functioning in a capacity where they can actually analyze and implement these items. So I think that's positive. It just takes one thing off the district's plate to allow you to really focus on the more important areas that you need to focus on right now. So I know you have to go into another meeting, so I know I went through that fairly quickly, but do you have any questions on any of those items we just talked about? I just have to find out how to stop sharing.
Kristen, I think
How's everybody?
we mentioned some additional money trees is what I took from that.
Yeah.
All right.
Does anyone have any last questions for Tom? I don't see anyone that looks like they have a question. Yeah, I think we're good. Tom, we appreciate the summary and especially highlighting those changes. We've been through these presentations before, and they're it's often the same type of information, but then this is not the same situation that we're in now. So highlighting what looks different and what's changed for you guys was very helpful as well. And we certainly appreciate the support in these uncertain economic times. So, yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right.
So is there anything else for the good of the order for the audit committee? Anyone have anything? I don't see anything, so I will adjourn the audit committee and I'll turn it over to Rodney to start our board meeting.
Thank you, Tom.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll call our meeting to order and move right into.
Did we lose him?
I'm so sick of Zoom meetings and Google Meets. I'm sorry.
The next one we'll all be together. Wasn't that the plan?
Mhm.
Yes. I'll be right back. Oh, there he is. Nope, that's Ryan.
It's Ryan.
Oh, he's coming back in.
Yeah, can anybody hear me?
Coming back in. Okay, he's here. Thank you. Bye.
We hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
So, okay, item 5, F, we're going to scratch that one. And I did not see under 8, item 8, I did not see an audit committee update. So we'll add H, and audit committee update. Jim, you'll give that to us.
Sure.
Okay. Any other?
Yes, under the department head, under J, we're not able to move on the K-12 medical position tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we're going to scratch that one too.
Yep.
And Ryan, F, under the attachment A.
Yes, F.
Oh, yes. Yep.
F, yes.
Yep, that's the one I was talking about.
Okay.
Any other agenda changes? If not, we'll move right into guest recognition. I don't know if we have any guests joining us.
Not besides myself.
Okay, Joe. I thought I seen Christine Eklund on here earlier. There she is. I see her.
Sorry, yes, Christine. My bad. Sorry, Christine.
Well, she's not really a guest, but I mean, Christine, do you have anything that you wanted to address the board on? You're muted. She's frozen and muted on my screen.
Oh, just muted on mine. Now she's good.
Okay, I was waving to say, no, thank you. All is good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Christine. Okay, I'll take items 4, 5, 6, and 7. One motion, if someone would like to make that.
Move. I'll second.
Julie and Beth. Beth, second. Okay, any questions or comments on any of those items? Obviously, the board meeting and then the board vote and then the other personnel issues and the committee on special ed.
If I can, Ronnie, I will just make a couple of comments about the appointments briefly. The first 3, A, B, and C, they're really just readdressing the idea of, I've shared with the board the idea of the language around teacher on special assignment versus an instructional support service provider. So that's really just readdressing those positions and having the board recognize that those folks are in those roles. I'm sorry, the first 2 are that. Luke Weaver's position, he had been working, his is a little interesting because he does a fair amount of teaching, but they're not students who are directly assigned to him. He does some guest teaching and guest work. So because of that, when I talked with Mike Farrell, we ended up feeling like the best thing to do would be to recognize him as an instructional support service position. So that is the first time that the board has taken action on that position. but Luke has been in that role for 2 or 3 years. He will be doing largely the same role. We do plan to get him a little bit more involved with some of the professional learning and curriculum writing through this position, but largely Luke is doing the exact same thing. It's just addressing it formally through the board. And then the last one is I'm really excited about the integration specialist position that we're appointing. The ebb and flow on this position, when I started, feeling like we needed it because of just capacity, to worried that we weren't going to be able to do it because of money, to the distance learning and remote learning opportunities really just cemented the need for some capacity and structure around this. I think all 3 folks who interviewed for the position did a great job. Tara's unique set of experiences and additional certifications through some additional coursework really, I think, set her apart in that regard. So really excited about that. I didn't want to lose those. The opportunity to just explain what was going on, why people who have been here for a while are being appointed through the board now. So just wanted to bring that off the page. And then, as I mentioned, in working with some of our legal advice, the idea of the stipend positions, worked with the leadership team to appoint positions that we would need year long at this particular time, and give the reopening information some more time to develop before we take action on additional stipend positions. So I just wanted to provide that brief background.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'll open it up for questions on any of the items that we had. Any questions on the appointments or the committees or the treasurer's report or anything? Seeing no one raising their hand. Welcome, Bob. Raising their hands, I'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, I think that's passed 5-0. Moving on to item 8, items for board discussion or adoption. Some discussion on the code of conduct hearing. Ryan, I believe that's your ballpark.
Yep, so this is officially the code of conduct hearing. It's my understanding when I started this year that John had been working with Mr. Wagner on a pilot in regards to the code of conduct, in regards more specifically to dress code in the wearing of hats. As a leadership team, we've taken a look at this, and they've had conversations. The principals have had conversations with their various SIT teams, and we're bringing back to you a revised code of conduct that is the exact same for elementary school and middle school, but we do want to make an amendment to allow some headwear for the high school students. And with that, I want to turn it over to Mr. Wagner, who put this in place based on some student feedback, and then he can explain kind of the process that they went through this year to monitor it and some of the data that they looked at.
Everybody. Well, thanks for allowing to try this out this year. So we revisited this with the staff and with the SIT team before the school closure. Actually, it was an item on our agenda. We looked at the code of conduct. We talked about this, and there was very positive feedback for it. Nobody had major concerns with it. It actually, when you look at the discipline data, it's helpful as far as the data, because it decreases the amount of incidents where you're addressing a student for headgear or a hat, which, as we talked about this as a staff, and there are 2 students on the committee, when you're speaking to a student and the first interaction's negative, take off your hat or something like that, that could lead to disengagement, could lead to a disciplinary referral, something like that. So as far as our discipline data, it's actually improved our data. As far as the rule goes, basically you can have a hat and headgear in common areas in the building. You can wear them in teachers' classrooms, but the teacher can say, we're not going to have our hats on in this classroom, just like they can with cell phones. Cell phones out, they can make a no headgear rule. And the students have been pretty compliant with following the teacher rules as well. We haven't got I don't think we had any referrals from teachers about insubordination with a student refusing. So we'd like to make this part of the code of conduct. I feel like it's kind of a big part of the culture now. It's how kids represent themselves. And I think it's important that they feel comfortable in the school. And It's like wearing a shirt or something like that you really like. Some kids feel more comfortable, more confident when they have a hat on. And some of them, some of our Genesee Valley BOCES students, it's kind of part of their work uniform. So we would like to move forward and add this to the code of conduct if everybody approves.
Ryan, can you talk about discipline referrals just one more time, please? Because when we talked as a leadership team, I think kind of the lack of evidence was really evidence in terms of the impact of hats.
Yeah. Yep. So we would have a handful of referrals before the hat, before students were allowed to wear hats, where we would, teachers would tell them to take them off, and it's kind of the same students you're dealing with. So you see the disciplinary referrals come in after the rule was in place and students were allowed to wear headgear. That discipline went away. So there wasn't any issues with that, and you weren't having those negative interactions with students. And it can be something as simple as, maybe the students have an off day, and when you have that first negative thing and they didn't comb their hair and they don't want to take their hat off, that's where that problem's created. But like I said, they have been compliant as far as taking them off in the auditorium and taking them off in a teacher's classroom that wants. I don't think there's too many teachers that have that rule, but there's been no discipline data really since then involving headgear.
Okay, I'm just a little confused. This is code of conduct hearing. It's not a hearing. Is that supposed to be headwear? Because in item B coming up.
Yep.
We're going to be approving the code of conduct coming up.
Yep. So we're talking about the change to the code of conduct now, which is when it's all said and done, the whole change to the code of conduct is allowing hats and some headwear at the high school. So we're discussing that at this point. And then if we can answer those questions, we'll move to approve it after this. We didn't do it as a discussion approval because it's a part of the code of conduct that we considered it one of the plans.
Okay, so it's not a hearing, or per se, you're not having a hearing for someone not following the code of conduct.
Oh, no, it's a hearing in regards to the district's code of conduct.
Okay, all right, I got you. Okay, has anybody got any questions on it? No? Everyone's good with it?
Yeah.
I think
Thanks
we were
for
good with
highlighting Thanks for highlighting those sections.
Yeah, I think before when we talked about it, we were all good with it. You were just going to meet with everyone and try and put something together for us. Okay, move on to item B, discussion on all the plans. But I think, Ryan, you have something on one of the plans you want to talk about first before.
Yeah, I've got two updates. I'll give you a quick update on the plans in general, and then I'll talk more specifically about one of the plans in particular. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And then I've got to jump over here. Okay, you should be seeing a document, revised schedule of plans 2021-2022. Soft application June 2020. Do you see that title of a document? Seeing a couple of head nods. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to explain this, but this is a document that Christina and Jackie, I believe, inherited from the district. And what it basically shows is that there's a number of different plans that we are all responsible for, and they're not necessarily done in a sequential way. They're like, some due dates are July, some are September, some are even February 1st for a shared decision-making plan. So we started going through this plan to take a look at how we can, instead of just being a victim to these expectations, how can we take control of some of it and put it on a schedule that works better for us? So logically speaking, that makes sense, but it ended up being kind of a pretty big rock that I threw into the middle of the pond that disrupted some things. So we've been doing some juggling over the last couple of weeks and even through most of the day today, trying to get to some clarity around a couple of the plans. The plans themselves are in really good shape. It's the editing of the timeline. So I'm going to jump to, so this is what we were working from and trying to make our edits about what we'd want to change and what we wouldn't change. So you can see it's marked up pretty well. APPR is kind of an unknown right now. The safety plan Tom has been working on. Special education plan is not really a required plan, but it's one that happens through Jackie's office anyway. and a strategic plan where we had started the legacy project and we talked a little bit about doing some different surveys, et cetera. So we don't really have a strategic plan right now. We are working on the strategy around that. But what we did is we cleaned it up and we ended up creating a much more abridged document. So most of what will be happening, the summary of this is we've tried to combine some things where they make sense, and we've tried to establish a timeline that honors the timeline of the state but works for us. And so what that'll mean is a big thick packet like you received this time around with plans that look like this coming to you in future years at the first board meeting in June. We will simply share them at the first board meeting in June, and then we'll have that time in order to come back and approve them, hopefully, at the second board meeting in June so that they'll be in place for July 1st. So instead of having them be popcorn all over the place, it'll be kind of a known calendar and a known structure. All of the plans will get to the shared decision-making team and the leadership team in mid-May, have them ready for you at the beginning of June, take action on them at the end of June, and have them ready to go for summer, which we can build some of our summer work around. So conceptually, I think it makes sense. This year is a hard year for it. It's a soft opening because we had some plans that were approved as recently as March and May. We had some plans, a 3-year plan that was approved last year. So it's caused a little bit of disruption and probably, I'm guessing, maybe a little bit of confusion on your end as you look through some of the plans. So that's the work that we're trying to do. So I think this year is the disrupted year. Next year it should be smoother because naturally more plans will come to a conclusion and we'll just update them as part of this meeting. So I want to talk, I have down here in green, the emergency response plan highlighted. This is something that last couple of weeks, we started looking at a new software product called Navigate 360, which helps with things like threat assessment, but it's not just physical response. It also gets into some of the emotional response, like threat to self kind of tools. And we're going to be implementing this. So that was happening. In another orbit, there are building plans that also have to be updated. So you receive those building plans in advance. And then the final piece is the overall district plan. And in the overall district plan, as we worked through this year, we realized that we needed to do a little bit of work in that plan. The one that's most specific and topical is that we need to make sure that we have a current and updated pandemic plan. So that is in the works. We have been working with TIG training over the last couple of years, and we had a chance to work from our revised TIG plan a couple of weeks ago, and the feedback from the group was it was an awful circumstance that we were working through, but the plan really helped to bring us together and have some common language in our response. So that TIG plan is also going into the emergency response plan, replacing our existing crisis plan. And then the last piece, which is kind of a little bit more contemporary, newer thinking, is the idea of a technology disaster recovery plan. In the need, like the instances of cyberbullying or cyber security issues, new information around personally identifiable information, that in and of itself is becoming a whole threat area. Where if we were to be compromised, it would definitely impact our operations. So bringing the technology plan, and more specifically the disaster recovery plan, into the emergency response plan. And they're being brought in, TIG, pandemic, and technology plans are being brought in as appendices for you this time around. So the last thing, when the technology plan and the disaster recovery plan, when I go back to this version that I'm sharing over here, we're able to combine them so that they are one document on one schedule. I mean, right down to the disaster recovery plan, I think was supposed to be updated every year. In the technology plan, Jim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, was to be updated every other year. So just getting those two things in the same step just makes sense. So that's kind of the background of what we've been working on, and I think it's going to work pretty well in the future. This year, it's been a little dicey for us getting everything together. So just when the meeting started, I apologize for this. During the day today, we noticed some formatting issues with the professional development plan. So you received an updated version of the professional development plan. That plan it was approved to go through the end of next year anyway. We're just simply updating it. We've cleaned up some of the format. And when you approve it this year, it'll still end at the end of next year, but we'll have a new one and we'll start going on an annual basis after this. So you received a new one just prior to this meeting. And then the last one that I want to talk about is the emergency plan. You have in your email, I sent two versions to you. I sent a 1.0 version that is marked up in red. It's the best I could do today, Beth. I'm sorry. I've been trying to figure out how to be a better redliner of documents so you can see the changes. So you have a 1.0 document, and then you have a 3.0 document. The 3.0 document is very close to completion. We have to submit a version of that by July 1st to the state. The only thing that it is not quite up to date with on right now is the pandemic plan. I have a draft of it, but we haven't been able to clean it up and finish it. And then we'd have to go back through and do the page numbering as well. So I wish that was all together and packaged nicely for you right now. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way in terms of the schedule and the calendar. So what I'd ask you for is to approve the plan, and then I will make sure that in the next day or two, you get the final updated version of it prior to July 1st. So that's the history of all the plans and that metaphor of me throwing the rock into the pond. But I think it'll ultimately help us to get a cleaner calendar around some of these plans. What questions can I answer for you in regards to any and all of the plans?
I have no question, but I would like to say that the less paper trails you need to make and still meet the requirements, I'm all for it. Less paper is a lot better for me. Less stressful for you because you got to worry about it. Whatever works the best is fine with me. That, you know, cutting out all these extra things is great for me. I like that. In a timely manner, like you're presenting it now.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that.
Especially in the emergency response and the crisis plan, it was just really well done, and everything is so explicit, both the narrative, those checklists, even having an evaluation after you do have to do a response, and then even I don't know if they were there before, I can't remember, in the appendix section, and having those sample letters, and just in terms of communication, you've thought of everything. Because when you're in that heat of the moment, it's nice to have something you're like, okay, this is how the wording has to go. This is, who we need to send what to. So really, really well done.
Thank you. The team worked on it. They've been doing the trauma. I had a chance to be in the TIG training while I was at PalMac, and it really is a strong training. I think it's something that I wish we had a chance for every educator to do that as part of a pre-service readiness program. I think it would be great for teachers to get that level of understanding, or anybody working in schools to get that level of understanding. And then from there, we worked with it as a mental health team this year. And so Jackie and Christina and the principals leading the mental health team really got it to a place where I think it's an exceptional plan. They did a great job on it. Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah, I just wanted to add too, I really like the idea of the plan for the plans. Because it obviously is that they're so comprehensive and so across the board, to take them all together and organize them in this way. And as you mentioned, Ryan, it might not be exactly have them all perfectly done at this point, but moving forward, I think it will pay dividends to have it on that kind of schedule. And then just one other point about the emergency plans too. I really like the idea of incorporating those other plans or kind of sub plans into that district plan. I work with safety plans, and I think that's a good way to do it, especially to call them functional annexes, like the TIG plan and the pandemic plan and your disaster recovery, to have those together, within the district plan, I think helps to organize those efforts as well. So yeah, that looks good.
Great, thank you.
And thank you for all the hard work putting those together. I know that's a very difficult thing to do. Make sure you have all your I's and dotted and T's crossed. That's tough. Thanks for all the effort you put into it.
Yeah.
I thank you. I think it's really the other people in the screen did most of the work. The other folks working on the plans, and right up to going back through and cleaning it up one more time. So thanks. I feel good. I think it's going to be easier for all involved going forward from here, but they've done a nice job. The plans were really in very good shape.
Rodney's muted.
That's not a bad thing, is it?
Yeah. It's gonna cost them a quarter, that's for sure.
Still waiting.
Nope, there you are, Rodney. You're back in.
Am I okay? Things are just happening here. I'm not touching anything. I think Jim's playing with me. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve all of those plans before you. Someone wants to make it?
I'll move.
Jim?
I'll
Do I have
second.
a second? Bob?
I'll second. Yep.
Any further discussion or questions or any? It's a big delay here, so. If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Post.
Aye.
Pass 5-0. Okay, item C is need a motion to approve, adopt the seeker resolution for the roof project on the elementary school. Have a motion to approve that?
I'll make it.
Yeah, Julie?
Yep.
Yes.
My screen's all frozen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jim?
Can I
Any
make a
discussion or
correction?
question?
I'm sorry, can
Yeah.
I make the correct, it should have said, the door project for the middle high school. That was the one we were just, talking about. It's a continuation of the door project. That, the elementary roof project was 2 years ago.
What the heck is going on here? Okay, so read it to us, Kristen. The approval of a seeker for the door project?
Yes, because it's the capital outlay project that was in this year's budget for 2020-21. And it should
Right.
say, instead of consisting of a roof project at the elementary school, it should say a door project at the middle high school.
Door project at the middle high school. Is everybody okay with that change, the agenda change? So we're making an agenda change to that item. And now, I don't know if I had a motion and a second for that or not, but I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make it again.
Julie? Okay,
I'll second again.
you'll second again? Okay. I think we're on the right page now. Any questions on that? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass 5-0. Okay, item D, hopefully this one's right. Adopt the revenue anticipation note resolution. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll make it.
Beth?
Beth.
Do I have a second?
Bob, second.
Bob? Any discussion or question on that one? Anybody need any information on it? Kristen's right there.
We've probably approved one, I think, 10 years ago. And with the COVID and the state aid, we're not sure if they're going to pull any. I'm anticipating that they will. If we ever had a cash flow shortage, we can do a revenue anticipation note with a bank where we can borrow money in anticipation of getting state aid. And this is one of the things that they recommended we do to prepare for that eventuality.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions? I know Beth and Julie weren't here when we did the last one. Not sure if Jim was or not. Probably was.
I get it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passed 5-0. Okay. Item E is discussion approval of the transfer of unexpected funds. Unexpended funds, not unexpected.
Oh,
Sorry.
man.
We can have discussion first. Kristen, did you want to cover anything or does anybody have any questions? Now, these are up to, I
Yes.
believe, if I'm correct. Everybody understands up to that amount. We don't know what the numbers are yet. We just know it won't be more than what that reads.
Correct.
And those are the areas that we look at that's recommended that we put the money also, not
Yes, that was one of the
necessarily
things.
do it.
Right, that was one of the things that Tom Zuber talked about. When he called me today, he asked me where we were going to put the unexpended fund balance, and the unemployment reserve and the workers' comp reserve were his top two choices. So we did good.
And one of the reasons for that is it's easy to take out, a lot easier to take out than some of the other ones. So.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Jim, have a second?
I'll second.
Beth? Okay. Does anybody have any questions or need some answers on what that consists of?
Got it.
Everyone's okay. Okay, then all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Passed 5-0. Okay, we're now into the COVID-19 updates. Ryan, you're up.
There's a lot going on right now in terms of information that's coming out, and I'll address that in just a second. But before I go there, I think I want to start with just the graduation plan under the COVID-19 pandemic rules and regulations. I know that Mr. Wagner and his team have been working extremely hard to come up with a plan for graduation. I'm very excited about what we're offering. There's no perfect plan under these circumstances. We can't please everything or everyone. But I'm really happy that the board supported us being a little patient, I guess is the right word. We really kind of slow played graduation to see what would evolve, and I think then took advantage of the opportunities that came our way. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wagner to unmute and just go over the final plan one more time, because this all falls under COVID-19.
Sure. So we are now doing one ceremony at 9 o'clock on Saturday, unless it hails, because apparently that's in the weather forecast. So we do have a rain date on Sunday.
Why wouldn't it hail?
Looks like the afternoon though. So we're doing one ceremony at 9 o'clock. Students, as Dr. Pichetti and I had talked to some students and staff on the senior celebration day, were very passionate about being all together as a class. So we decided to change the ceremony from 2 to 1 so they could all be together on the field. So all 90 students will be spaced out on the turf. We'll have the stage out on the turf, and we have a parking lot scheme set up where I won't go into too much detail here because it's a little confusing if you don't see the diagrams. Every family is assigned one numbered space so we know where they are. So our parking lot attendants can identify 5 families to go onto the bleachers when we start calling names for students. And then we're going to rotate every 5 students and rotate the 5 families on the bleachers and space them out so they can see, everybody can see their graduate come across the stage and get their diploma. The other advantage to doing it this way is siblings and some other family members will be able to attend. The disadvantage, of course, is we're not going to have the bleachers filled. People are not going to be able to sit in the bleachers and watch the entire ceremony. They'll have to watch from the live streaming service that we've contracted with through most of the ceremony. But it does allow for a ceremony with the whole class, which will be nice, and it does allow for parents, extended family to see their graduate cross the stage, get the diploma. So we're excited about it. We have, I think we have the details worked out. Just hoping for good weather. And we have a rehearsal Friday. This is very new, so we're gonna practice everything and make sure that everything goes well. And then we're going to meet with everybody at 7:15 to do an orientation for all the staff that's helping facilitate the parking and the guests, and make sure that everybody knows exactly what they're expected to do to make it as smooth as possible. One thing that we do know is I'm going to have to do probably some long and uncomfortable pauses on stage when we rotate families in and out, but that's okay. I think the important thing is we just wait on it, wait till everybody's set, and then they'll be able to see, their child, their graduate cross the stage. So that'll be we were going to do 2 ceremonies, which would have taken about 3 hours. So I don't think this will take 3 hours. So we can pause for as long as we need to make sure everyone's ready. So it will be live streamed. We do have a professional photographer. I do have Mr. Leone also recording it and making a DVD, as he always does. He volunteered to do that. So we have some good things in place there for parents to purchase pictures, and the live streaming will go up on our website for as long as we really need it to. I don't know if I missed anything, Dr. Piketty, or anybody else that's helping me do this.
The only thing that I would just like call attention to is we anticipate having a little bit of a tricky time in the parking lot, and especially on the north end where there's grass just beyond the fence in terms of people gathering there. I've talked to Joe Gear. We have a plan with Matt McFadden. Our plan is a soft enforcement, like we know what the social distancing rules are. We're going to remind people about the need to look out for the safety of others, and that we're not allowed to have more than 150 into the non-essential gathering. And we're going to try to keep people spread out as best we can. But I will say we're planning on a soft enforcement. It is not our intention to get into any sort of confrontation over rules and regulations. We just want to ask for cooperation and do the best we can to enforce it during the short time of the ceremony. So just wanted to put that out there. We're going to enforce the rules, but it's not going to, celebrating the seniors, I think, is going to be our biggest priority.
Ian, what are your expectations of the board? I mean, I know we have to be limited, so I'm not sure what your plans are, just so we know.
We do.
Go ahead, Ryan.
So I know, so Rodney, I think we have you on stage with us.
Okay.
So to keep the ceremony limited, we have the class advisors, Dr. Piketty, you, and myself on stage.
Okay.
Jim is a parent in this case, so I'm sure he'll be with his family. And I believe two people.
If Jim wants to, can he come up on stage to hand his son the diploma if he cares to do that? We can work out something where the family's going to walk down anyways, but maybe he hands his son his diploma somehow.
Yeah, I mean, we might be able to work out a situation where he is on stage with you. We're not going to go beyond the numbers. I think if we have one more person on, so I'm open to whatever everybody's comfortable with. It's a different situation, so feel free to weigh in on that.
Yeah, Jim and I'll talk, but maybe he just, at the family, wherever they're going to be at, he can just walk up there when his son, or walk up with his son.
Yeah, and
we can see what he can do.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be, if I could do that, would be great. But I don't need to be on the stage. But yeah, if we can just, and again, I don't want to break any of our health and safety rules either. If it's an issue with me handing a diploma, that's not a problem if I'm just there, because I know the rest of the students that will be picking it up. So, however we work that up, I don't want to create any issues with by being the only one.
I just wanted to ask. I mean, yeah, you're going to be there anyways.
Yeah,
already part of the 150. So
yeah,
whether you walk up with the camera in or you want to stay down, whatever, I think we'll give you the opportunity to do that. So
sounds great. Thank you.
Were there any other thoughts around the board? Jim, I think we're going to need you up there. You might be the only hug that's allowed during the ceremony.
Well,
everywhere. We might need you to hug your son.
That's what I'm worried about, though. We're supposed to be modeling good, safe behavior, right?
It may be
great. I would do that, but I don't want to model. Why does he get to hug his kid, right? That kind of thing. But
it may be better, Jim, if we have you on stage, just for like the flow of things.
Yeah.
Kind of picturing you walking up there, and it might look a little, strange and the timing might be off, but because we're going to put the diplomas on a table for students to pick up to follow the health and safety guidelines. So it might be better, and I'm comfortable with that if everybody else is. I mean, like I said, it's a different situation. So
yeah, if you think that's the best, that's great with me.
Okay.
And
All right.
the rest of us are helping Rodney in the parking lot. Julie,
Right.
Bob, and I.
You guys are all set on that then. Okay.
Great. It will be a labor intensive day, guys. Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to give Jim the opportunity. He may want to be with his family. I'm not sure, but as long as you guys are receptive, whether he's up on the stage for his son or the whole time, that's good. So he can decide.
If everyone's comfortable with that, I can have. I'll make the changes, an easy change to have to Jim on stage. There's space and not a problem at all.
Congratulations, Jim. Did he hear me?
I think he's frozen.
You might have froze.
Yeah, he looks like he's frozen.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Good night.
I'll let Jim get a hold of you, Ryan. Let him decide. I just don't want to put him on the spot. He may not want to be up on stage the whole time. He may want to be his family, maybe not. So,
I'll touch base with him.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Anybody got any questions on that?
That's great. Ryan, thanks for all of your work on it. I know you've been churning. You've been churning on it and giving it a lot of thought, and a lot of attention to detail. So just thank you very much for your commitment to getting that right. So the rest of the COVID-19 update, I'll just try to be brief. I know that there's a ton of information coming out. There's recommendations. Thank you, Julie, for serving on the roundtable, and I saw that some information came out today about that. I have not had a chance to look at it. I know that there are some white papers coming out in regards to transportation. I know some of those informations have been posted, and some of the videos have been posted. And Beth, I know you've been paying close attention to that work, and Jen Miller's on screen somewhere. I know that she's been looking at that work also. And it's a flood of information, but my caution is, and what I'm most worried about is, none of that guidance officially yet is coming from New York State. So they did release some higher education guidance today that I just had a chance to skim very briefly. So what I want to do now, if it's okay with you, is I want to combine a couple. I want to combine the board learning series and the COVID-19 and kind of present an idea to you and hopefully get your permission to move forward on something. I started putting together a learning series for the Board of Education based on our last meeting. And the idea that I was starting to frame it around was looking at dates where we have Board of Education meetings and either figuring out to do something before the meeting or after the meeting to just take advantage of the time that we're already getting together. And I know that folks work. So that would be in the evening. So I started framing something out that had some dates. And then I started working on the COVID-19 reopening plan. And I've been on the other side, I've been working on the survey that we want to send to families. And I've been reaching out to some consultants to help us with some long-term planning. Somewhere in all of this, we have a review of our counseling program taking place that we've worked with someone to take a look at our mental health services. I say counseling, mental health services and counseling with Rob Levy leaving. We started a contract social worker position. We just found out recently that Donna Rivers is going to retire this year, a year earlier than she had anticipated. So we think that looking at that counseling program is going to be, mental health program is going to be really important. And then I've also been working with Christina and Jackie on what we're calling CD23, which is an update to our curriculum work and moving it from the existing formats into eDoctrina, putting it in the technology in the eDoctrina format, and updating curriculum areas where standards or outcomes or frameworks may have changed. So instead of working on all of these as independent plans, what I want to do is present to the board the idea, can I put all of this in a 1 or 2 or 3 page paper for you to take a look at all of these things that are on our radar for moving forward and that we'll need to do to move forward, present that to you between now and July 7th, and then have a chance to go over it there. And that would include those 5 different elements, which would be the Board of Education Learning Series, distance learning, our long-term strategic planning, the mental health review, and CD23. And that would then become our strategic plan for this year. where when we go back to that plan document that I shared, where I said we don't really have a strategic plan, but we're developing our strategy, that would become our plan for this year. That would lead to hopefully a longer term strategic plan after this year. So rather than work on these things in isolation, my theme has been trying to get things together and in one place. I'm hoping that that's something that's acceptable to you.
Comments?
You're just making those arrows going straight.
I'm trying to do. There's a lot of them. There's more of them than I thought.
You picked up a few more.
Would you list them again? The COVID-19, the CD23, the mental health review, the Board of Ed learning series, and what was the fifth one?
Just the long-term information gathering we wanted to do with the community, and kind of picking up where we left off with the legacy project, my entry plan information, the legacy information. And then I reached out to a couple of different consultants who do some survey work about the possibility of helping us at the beginning of next year to gather some more information about specific items like facilities, like academic programming, things of that sort.
That's great.
Everyone good with that? Ryan, do you have enough time to do that? I don't want to keep putting pressure on you. And everything is 7/7. I mean, you're just going to give us somewhat of a plan. You got enough time to put that together for us by then, or you want a little longer?
I appreciate it. I think I should be able to, as long as, I'm going to take some liberty with some of the dates, knowing that when we talk about it, we can shift those around some. But I'll propose some dates and then move off of what's proposed, rather than try to do some group calendaring that can get overwhelming at different points in time. And in this first round, it'll be largely just a high level overview of what we're looking to do. And then we can develop the details a little bit more later, if that's okay.
Okay. Just want to make sure that time wise, you're okay there. So, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm sure there will be other things that come up as well. Like there will be some new requirements that come out that we have to address, and we're not going to ignore those requests because we're working on these 5 things. But these 5 things will be the kind of the goals for next year, if we will.
Okay. All right. Anybody got any questions on any of the COVID-19 or the learning search? If not, we'll move on to item H, the agenda change add-on. We always have an audit committee update. Jim, would you like to give the board the update?
Our audit committee met earlier this afternoon, and our agenda items included the 2 main items included reviewing our claims audit reports for December of 19, and then January, February, March, April of 20. And then the remainder of the time was a presentation by Tom Zuber, who provided an overview of our audit process, and then really focused on those key issues and areas of the fund balance and reserves, and specifically spoke to our planning around reserves, which again, we feel that that long-range planning has been done really well. But he also just focused on what looked different this time from the normal audit processes. So that's helpful, because obviously things have looked a little different with the current situation. So that's about it, Rodney.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, Kristen? We don't have to do a motion, or we're not approving anything in this particular one, just getting the update?
Yes. Yep.
We don't have to approve the update, though. I don't believe we do that, do we?
No, it's just a report.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to reports, President's report. I don't have a whole lot. You see a lot of stuff coming through from NYSBA. They're working diligently. You know that these regional meetings, we had one here. I think they're all been done now. I know Kevin McDonald sat in on one of them, or actually
Boosted.
Yeah. And one of them now, he's also going to be doing the city of Rochester, working on something there. But the governor, I believe, had told the school districts or the SED to put a plan together. So I think that's the reason why all the regionals together. He hasn't approved anything. He hasn't seen anything yet. I think all the regions are going to get together and all the regions meeting, put that stuff together. And then I believe submit a plan to the governor's office. He hasn't said anything about regular school other than higher education. He released something today, but nothing else is come from the state whatsoever, as Ryan had mentioned earlier. So, okay, legislative, Julie, anything?
Pat Burke's going to do a wrap up of the year, and we're going to kind of look at Genesee Valley School Board's revision for kind of going into next year, and then the BOE training, but we don't have any new board members. Congratulations to both Bob and Rodney on your reelection. It looks like it was a landfall. So if you want to do training again, you feel free to train or teach the class. And then that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Julie.
Yep.
Moving on to the reports. Again, I just love this format we have with the reports and everything we have. But I guess I had one question for Kristen and the business office reports. Said that Caledonia notified us that they're going to be putting in a solar project over by, I think it's all done, isn't it?
No, I think this is, okay. This is a new one. This is.
New one besides the one by Julie?
Yeah, this is Valley Sand and Gravel, which I think is right after the new one, Bruce Howlett's. Here it is.
Oh, Valley Sand and Gravel is where they just put in the one where the embankment is there. That's
yeah, but I think it's further back. So this
okay.
They haven't even they're intending, or they give us an intent to develop. So it must be another one. I don't have a tax map number or an address yet.
Okay, I thought maybe their intent wasn't it's all done.
Yeah.
Kristen, I just had a quick question about, I got an unemployment request form. I don't know, I'm not an employee, so I was just, it was from the Department of Labor.
Did it say you were an employee?
Yes, that I could file unemployment.
So there's a huge fraud thing going around. If you can call me tomorrow, I'll give you the information and contact for who you should contact, and then I need to call Department of Labor on your behalf.
Okay,
We've had
sorry about
three.
that.
That's okay. We've had 3 current employees that somebody filed falsely for them, and they notified us right away.
Hey,
All right.
hey, Julie, can I jump in there too? Because I was that happened to me at Monroe 1. So I received a letter, and I was also and basically though if it's the same night that we're victims of identity theft, and there's a huge crime, as Kristen mentioned, there's a big crime ring that was responsible for these, especially in Western New York. But I received one, and then the next day though I got a debit card saying your unemployment funds are ready to be accessed. And I'm a 12-month employee, and so my next phone call was to our human resources, but they got that notice at our HR department saying that that I'm filed a claim, but it was fraudulent, obviously. So yeah, it's interesting that you as a board member though got if it is the same.
They're telling me to file it. They're telling me that I need to file it, and so maybe
it might be different. Yeah, I'll talk to you offline, Julie. We can see if it's the same, because if it is, there's a few other things I'll advise you to do.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Jim, I have a whole list of things, like in contacting the FBI. There was a very detailed email that was shared with us of what to do. So I'll actually share it with everybody.
Yeah, and on the school end, right, that there's things you have to do about the fraudulent claim notice to the Department of Labor and a few things.
Yep.
And then they're advising the individuals then to do some things on their own as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody got any questions on any of the board reports, the administrators' reports? If not, I give the opportunity to the administrators if they want to add anything. I'll ask Ryan about what time Saturday do you want the board members, the ones that are doing the parking, myself and Jim, to be there?
5 a.m. is great.
5 a.m. I can make it if you will.
I think 8 o'clock will be, well, the parking. So the people who are doing the parking, I think, got an email at 7:15 to be there for the orientation, because people are going to start coming into park pretty soon. For those that are on stage, probably 8 o'clock's fine.
Okay, so is there any particular place that I should park?
I would come to the high school and park there. We're going to process from the high school lot. We're going to line the students up in one large line and process from the high school lot down to the middle school parking lot into the stadium.
Oh, okay. So you want me I'll be at the high school then.
Wear your comfortable shoes.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can't allow the heels on the turf anyway, so.
Nice.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the administrators, especially the building principals. It was really great seeing what you did for your end of the year. Like Rob had a flip grid, and every teacher had a message to send. And Ryan, I know that you posted some things. Jen, there was stuff going on. So thank you for just including that. It really at least helped me or us as a board to kind of feel like we were there. We obviously enjoyed when we had the parade for the seniors. My voice was really hoarse afterwards. I don't know about anybody else's, but yeah, it probably was daunting doing that end of the year, typical end of the year. So again, thank you to everyone for making things happen in these uncertain times. And it looked like everything went really well. So
yeah, it was surprisingly went well for Senior Celebration Day. That was a lot of things we haven't taken on before. So I'm happy. And just a shout out, I mean, everyone's been, we have such a great staff and community. It's been, those are pretty daunting to take on, things you haven't done before, but everyone's so helpful and always willing to lend a hand. So it's appreciated. It's a team effort for sure.
Does anybody else, administrators or board members, have any comments or anything they want to add? Okay. Ryan, do you have anything more you want to report?
One thing, I just want to say that I'll say two. One, I think Maya Kellogg is the most amazing person in the world in terms of the work she did and for that very non-typical voting process. So that's number one, is Maya's amazing. And number two is just an encouragement to everybody else on the screen to sit back and just take a deep breath and that just have such a convincing vote, I think is a real testament to the reputation that you've all established in Avon and Avon's programming over the years. So that is a referendum. I said it's a referendum on our school district, and that includes everybody in this screen and all of the work that you've done. If the trust weren't there with the community over the last several decades, then I think there's the possibility of a different result. But to have that approval rating in these times, I think is a real testament to all of you and the work you've done historically at Avon. So I hope you take a sense of pride in that referendum on the work you've done.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the roundtable. Beth?
As Ryan happened to mention, it's all right. I know I'm weird, but I've been listening into all of the recordings that that the Board of Regents has been doing, even other than our regions. Region 1, for Region 2 and 3 and 4, they're just creating PDFs for the actual opening and presentation, but it was really interesting. So I've listened to all of Region 1. There are probably 9 or 11 breakout sessions. I'm through half of them, but there's just a lot of great information. I just like being on top of that kind of thing. So I've been, that sort of has been consuming me, but I actually had questions for our board. We got an email from Darcy about a complimentary, what was it? Like a self-evaluation. So I didn't know about that. And then NISBA sent out the survey in regards to the convention, and I didn't know if anybody had filled that out. they're just trying to, do a dipstick, take the temperature of where boards are. Are they, willing to go to New York in October and, or would you rather do it virtually? So I didn't know if I'd like to be part of the team response. So I didn't know how we were feeling or just gonna kind of wait on it. They're just trying to gauge how to move forward themselves. So I didn't know how people felt about that.
Right. They're in contact with the hotel to find out what the hotel is going to be able to offer. They're sending out the information. They're trying to get individuals. I mean, obviously boards, but they're trying to get a head count on numbers. And if the hotel will be able to manage it, not manage it, if they can even do it. Because as New York City is going into, they say they're going to start phase 3. But, got gatherings of 50 people only right now. They just raised it from 25 to 50. Up here for phase 4. Phase 3 is not even there yet. So we will hear, we're going to hear within the next week. I was in contact with the NISBA earlier to find out, because I've had some inquiries about whether or not they're even going to have that. They sent out the poll out there to find out who would attend, if they would attend, if you would attend a virtual
right
or whatever. But there's going to be a decision forthcoming within a week or two at the latest. So
okay,
and what we're going to do. So
yeah.
As far as filling out the form, it's just asking you. I mean, you all should have got that. And then the Darcy's thing, they're reaching out to every board that's been sent out that request that complimentary evaluation, or if you choose to do that. I think we did that with Darcy, or we had Darcy up here, maybe not self-evaluation for us, but we had Darcy up here for something similar to that. But anyways, okay. I mean, I know that's about NISBA, whether or not they're even going to have it or not, but they're looking at the numbers now.
Okay. Well, it did bring up in terms of, when we talked about our own board goals, and then when we do the superintendent's evaluation. So we have that process. I know you probably don't need to do that, but it really just brought to the forefront, conversations about where we are with those two things that we'll need to look at.
Yep.
The superintendent evaluation and our own goals.
I can fill that out for you. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. We're going to be asking you to fill yours out pretty quick. So
okay, that's it for me.
Else? Okay, Julie?
Nothing else.
Nothing more? Okay. Jim?
Nothing, just other than just one last thanks. This is our last meeting of the year, I believe, right? So again, just to echo that sentiment of thank you for everyone on this screen for all your caring leadership. It wasn't just leadership, but I think it was done in a very caring way. Effort really was so demonstrated. So it's just much appreciated. We thank you.
Bob?
Well, I want to thank everybody for voting for me. Another 3 years. Thank the parents too. They learned a lot about the new math. Keeping their students in place there. So best time of the year for Bob is graduation. So I'm looking well ahead here just to enjoy that view. So it's good every year.
That's great.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Bob. Okay. Moving on, our next meeting obviously is Saturday, graduation. And then the following Tuesday, 7/7 is our reorg meeting. And I don't believe do we have 4 o'clock for the time, I believe.
I have
Everyone
4
was
o'clock.
good.
Yep.
4 o'clock, correct?
Yep, and that's in person.
In the library.
Yeah, in person, in the library. Yep. We'll space everything out.
Yeah, we'll still broadcast it, but we will be in the same room like we did the first meeting when all this broke.
Okay.
Thanks for that reminder. I was still thinking it was going to be virtual, so I thank you for that reminder.
Well, if you have a very, very strong urge not to do that for some reason, let me know. But we'd really like to, at least the reorg meeting, would like to try and get back in person there, making sure that we're socially distanced and, set up tables and so on will be wiped down and hand cleanser and stuff will be here. But if we could do that, that would be good. So,
Yeah, sounds good.
okay. All right. And that leads us to our last guest recognition. If anybody would like to address the board, I don't know if we have anybody new on or not. I don't believe we do. No one? Okay. We do need to have an executive session. I believe Brian had sent out the notification to you earlier today. So I would like to thank everyone that's on here, that's participating. And I know most of you are going to be back into executive session. But it is the end of the year, so I truly want to thank everyone for all their efforts. Certainly, Avon is very unique in the fact that we have such a great staff and great administration to pull us through any kind of disaster or anything that should come up. So, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make it.
Beth, we have a second? Nobody wants to.
I'll second.
Got you. And all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going into executive session. Thank you, everyone, for attending.